Hello, everyone. This is Doug Davis, broker in charge at B Realty, and here for another session of Ask Doug. And I have an interesting one this time. This is all about how do you measure your home or your condo, your co-op, your townhome, your row home, the various properties that are appraised. And there's a new Fannie Mae requirement that started this year, April 1st actually, and it affects how we measure our properties. So, oh my gosh, there isn't anyone that knows how big your home is or your condo. And there's probably maybe 100 square feet, maybe more or less, that it would be a range of square footages based on how it's measured. And I've always told my agents, don't ever measure a place. It's too fraught with errors. So we have to leave it up to the appraisers. But the appraisers aren't the only one that measure properties. So mostly across the nation, we take the county tax assessors' square footage. Well, their square footage came from the architect or developer of, say, a high-rise condo, and give that measurement to the tax assessor, and then they latch onto that and tax us our real property tax based on that square footage given. But how is that really calculated? So back in the 1960s and 70s, we had a condo documentation called the HPR, Horizontal Property Regime, now called CPR. But the HPR calculated square footage based on the middle of the wall, behind the drywall, behind your paint, as your square footage. But you can't live in there. So there's a lot of extra square footage that you're perhaps being taxed on. It's different with the CPR. They measure from the paint out. So that's not fair for the older condos because they'll have a larger square footage, but that's not their living area. I don't know. What should we be measuring? Seems like paint out would be fairer. But then there's all sorts of exceptions. So the new standard, they're supposed to take into account stairways. So that's kind of new. For houses, it's always been from the exterior, and that's the way they do it now. So you measure from the outside. So again, there's a lot of area that you can't live in when you're inside because they're measuring the outside, and you might have a double wall, moldings and all that sort of thing. So that's interesting. Just for comparison, the commercial brokers have all sorts of leasing and renting schemes when renting to a tenant. So they have gross leasable, they have net leasable. They include the hallway and the elevator area, sometimes the bathrooms. I mean, after all, you're using those areas. And they include the square footage that's within a pillar, a structural pillar, or sometimes not. But that would be all measure of the gross areas. So just to get an idea of the different ways real estate measures things. So I think one of the best ways that I've seen for measuring things is that Matterport camera, which takes hundreds of measurements, readings from the camera as it's navigating its way through the entire property. And it does three-dimensional as well, so it'll take ceiling heights and that sort of thing, giving you a cubic square footage along with a two-dimensional square footage. And it's the two-dimensional square footage that we're after here. The appraisers now have to measure down to the inch, but I am telling you, the appraisers aren't going to be measuring the little nuances in the house, the little crooks, the maybe a little bit bigger area under a window. You know, it's not just a straight line across most walls. You don't live in a square or a rectangle. There's all sorts of undulations. And those aren't going to be measured, but that's part of your square footage living area. So I don't think this new method is, it's just another method, and it's not going to give it any more accurate square footage than anything else. Not to mention the new method now. This is the ANSI standards, is what they're calling it, and that's for Fannie Mae. That is for lending standards, and this is what the buyer's appraiser is going to be using. So you may say your house is 2,000 square feet, but the appraisal may come up with 1,000 square feet. I don't know, this might not be good. Might not be good for many reasons. Ceiling heights have to be at least 7 feet high to be calculated in the square footage. There's lots of old homes in Hawaii that have very low ceilings and far less than 6 feet even. And those areas cannot be calculated in the overall, in the square footage that they're using in the appraisal. So that's not good. The other things that are kind of dicey in my opinion is that no basements can be calculated, and a basement, according to Fannie Mae, is anything that's underground, even if there's a 1 foot or 2 foot above ground part of the wall. If any part is below, looking at it from the other way, is underground, you can't be counted. Now we have countless homes in Hawaii that are built on the mountain. We have so many mountain ridgeline communities. If the lower floor room goes into the soil, that's considered a basement. So that area cannot be calculated. So an entire below floor that just has a portion like that is not supposed to be counted in the overall square footage of the home. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And then they have all sorts of limitations to homes. This might be a problem if you have a home in Kona. If you have a structure with, they call it Kyoto style home, where you have a bedroom down an outdoor pathway, hallway, open to the sky, but you walk down a pathway to the bedroom suite, master bedroom suite. There might be one for guests, there might be another for the kitchen, there might be another one for a living room. And they limit the number of square feet that can be calculated. So you might have a 1,000 square foot master bedroom, but because it's detached, they'll only calculate, oh, let's see, cannot exceed 640 square feet. So that's a problem. So anyway, there's lots of criteria that are used in calculating the square footages now with this new ANSI standard that's for the mortgage lending industry. And it was an attempt to standardize the square footages across the nation. I don't think it's accomplishing that, actually. It's just going to add another square footage number. So we're going to have, you can measure it, the appraiser can measure it, we can do it the old style measurement way, we can get the county assessor, we can get the blueprints and do those measurements that the architect calculated with their CAM program that shows exact square inches even. And so we're going to have a range of values. That's what we have now, and I think that's what we will have now in the future too. So just to make it confusing, that's a little summary of how you calculate your condo, co-op, or home, townhome, and makes it a bit dicey for real estate folks when we're selling a property and we're quoting a square footage. So I think now we perhaps need to quote a range of square footages that the property might be. And I challenge anyone to give me an accurate square footage. And again, I think the Matterport method is going to be perhaps the most accurate way of doing this. So there you have it. I hope that's been of interest. It's certainly an immediate topic because it's in play right now, and it may affect your buyer for your property right now. Okay, that's it. Hope that was enjoyable, and until next week, thanks.